Hi everyone, my name is Tikutiart. Thank you for joining us with our initiative, COVID-19 TechShare Initiative Day number 3. We are recording this webinar and we'll share the link to all attendees. Feel free to share this link with anyone that may benefit from this. Please ask questions at the end of the session. Our host is Mike Scully. He will be presenting some content on Power BI as well as the Microsoft Core Quality Dashboard. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Nico, and welcome everyone to TechShare number 3. As said by Nico, we're going to have a quick run through some information on the business intelligence solution Power BI from Microsoft and a couple of the options on how that can be set up for your company. And then we'll have a look at the Microsoft Power BI dashboard that's been created for call quality data in Microsoft Teams. So starting off with Power BI. So you can see on the right-hand side over here that Gartner has, again, for the 13th year in a row, listed Microsoft as the leader in the business intelligence market. You can see there's a few other big players in there, like Tableau, which is quite close, and Click. But certainly Microsoft has got the market pretty much cornered in that. There's a couple of niche players in there you'd be aware of potentially as well, such as IBM and Oracle, and a bit of SAP as well, and Salesforce. But for custom data sources and linking different data sources, certainly Microsoft with its Power BI solution has got the lead at the moment. At present, it's got about 5 million users worldwide using it, so it certainly has very broad appeal, and it's through its community, it's constantly getting updates, custom controls. It's part of the reason why it's doing so well. One of the key things that was noted by Gartner in its recent January-February release of the Magic Quadrant was that the augmented capabilities become key differentiators for analytics and BI platforms. You got cloud-based systems influencing selection decisions, and it's saying that looking at its quadrant, analytics leaders evolved their analytics and BI technology portfolios in light of those changes. So basically, looking at the next 3 or 4 years, one of the key features of Power BI that's going to be really attractive is the what if functionality, where you can have a dashboard there and ask it questions, and users can kind of drill down their own sort of interesting ways into the data by asking questions. So analytics is really starting to grow and be accepted by business as a key tool to support decision making, much more than it was, say, 10 years ago. So a bit about Power BI. So the most common way to use Power BI is using the Microsoft 365 cloud and using Power BI as a service. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Capacity-wise, you can use the shared capacity, where you're sharing a tenancy with other organizations, and what that ends up happening is, if you're not a very heavy Power BI user and other companies in the tendency are, you can be impacted by their consumption of data. If you go to premium capacity, you can see here, you get a dedicated resource pool. It is more expensive to go to Power BI Premium, but if you are a company that's heavily using a lot of analytics and you rely on the data, and responsiveness is very important to your users, then certainly the premium capacity is important. And a key thing to note there as well is, if you're paying for premium capacity, you can still have free users, and when they deploy things, their stuff goes into your premium capacity, not into the shared one. So even your free users will benefit from having that dedicated resource pool without having to pay for an individual user license. From a user licenses perspective, you can get free licenses for single users, and that just allows a user to develop their own dashboards, and they can deploy them into Microsoft 365 into their own workspaces, but they can't share them with other users. They're only for their own consumption. If they want to be able to share and collaborate with other users, then you have to go for a pro license. At the moment, a single license is approximately $13.70 per month from Microsoft. but that will allow the user to author, collaborate, and share their reports. So they can actually share a link, and then other Power BI Pro users can open that link. A little bit of an image on the right here, you can see Power BI, there's an example of it being used on a tablet with some very nice colorful visuals. This image here is actually the Power BI desktop, which is the development environment you have for Power BI. You've got this little visualizations pane here. You can actually go onto the marketplace and download custom visuals from the marketplace. And on the right here is your fields. So these are the different queries. And when you expand these out, that's where you can see the different fields that you can then drag onto a visualization and configure the data you're going to see on it. Also, this is the Power BI mobile app. You can build and deploy reports specifically with constrained to dimensions that will be attractive and easily used on a mobile phone. Another way you can use Power BI is to use the Power BI report server. You can see on the right, if you're familiar with SQL Server reporting services, it's very, very similar. In fact, you can do your standard paginator reports here. These are SSRS reports. Those are available within Power BI report server as well. But on top of that, you can have other things such as Excel workbooks. You can use Power BI reports, which is like you saw on the previous page, it's a Power BI report. And as with reporting services, say 2016 onwards, you can do KPIs as well. So you can have these little key performance indicators so you can figure data from a data source and configure what looks good. What should be good performance or bad performance, and have them there. So when you go into the report server, you can see your key metrics that are right there in front of your face. So I haven't done any dashboards. So the report server is on premise. It combines as we said, it combines SSRS and Power BI. One of the good features of it is because it's on premise, you can actually constrain which folders people can go to within the report server using permissions on Active Directory groups. Exact same way you do it on reporting services. The data is stored on your on-premise servers or on your cloud servers, so you're not putting your data into Microsoft's cloud in whatever tenancy you're in for Microsoft. You're pulling data from your SQL server, your Oracle server, from your Salesforce environment, whatever you need. You don't need to set up a gateway and have that running separately to refresh your dashboards in this. Users can go into a dashboard and refresh it themselves, or on the actual dashboard you can configure a refresh. And if you deploy the reports using, say, a proxy, SQL Server proxy account, that can just refresh on its own. And unlike Power BI in the cloud, which you're limited to on the free one to 8 refreshes a day, this you can refresh it as often as you want. Again, for this one here, you can use the Power BI free licenses and deploy your dashboards into your report server using those. You don't need to have additional Power BI Pro licenses to put the reports on there. And anyone in the organization who has access to the server and access to the folders within the server, like we said, you can set permissions on Active Directory groups. If you have access to the report, you can run the report, providing the reports have been deployed using a service account or a proxy account to run the actual data itself. There are 2 licensing options for how you can get access to Power BI Report Server. The first one is the more expensive one in a lot of ways, because you subscribe for Power BI Premium. There's different levels, but one of the levels, for example, is around $8,000 per month. Or if you already have SQL Server Enterprise licensing and you have software assurance, you can actually download and install Power BI Report Server at no additional cost. You just have to check out a license from your software assurance inside Microsoft. And what that allows you is install it, and you set up just the exact same as installing SSRS. It runs the same. It runs like a website on your own server. So the other cool thing you can do with Power BI, you can embed it into websites or web pages. So Power BI dashboards can be embedded in. I've got an example down here of a Power BI dashboard integrated into what's called the K2 workspace site. This is a part of a workflow platform that we use. It's web-based, and Workspace allows you to set up links to all the different forms that a team might need. So in this example, we have a dashboard for our sports ground auditing solution. It's set up with all these things on the side. So you can see we've got some dashboards with some SSRS reports as well in there. And it's really a very useful way of doing it, because you can set a dashboard as a landing page on a site, or summarize the data for the site on a dashboard. You can click on any of the controls when you embed it in, and it's fully interactive still, which is great. So, for example, if I wanted to click on only the grounds are in excellent condition, I could click on this pie chart on that slice, and all of the controls in the dashboard will filter down to that data, and all of these calculations will recalculate based upon just that data set. So really great way of doing it. So having covered a bit of Power BI, I wanted to run through an example from Microsoft, which is the Collier Dashboard for Microsoft Teams. It's a dashboard that pulls data from Microsoft 365, and it's using your tenant ID for your Microsoft Teams, and it goes through. You can look through all the different calls and conference calls and video calls that you've done, and it can give you some really interesting statistics and data on faults and stuff like that. So you can do, once you look into this, you can actually do a lot to tailor this to your own scenario and take things off you don't need, and make it better. So the first tab I wanted to talk about was the call count summary. It's very simple. It gives you a summary of your monthly calls. This is actually running off of Inasolve's own Microsoft Teams. So you can see, for example, in the last 35 days, the majority of calls have been made through the Windows app, but we've done some with Android and using the web app and iOS as well. So it's a really, really good tool in a way to get an idea of the spread of different apps and clients people are using to connect. It gives you a good idea of the volume of the calls that you are doing and the volume you're doing through the different clients on the different days. In this example, this is the audio calls, video calls, and then these are screen shares. So it gives you an idea of just what sort of volume you're putting through using the different services. And if you were looking to provide statistics out to your users in the organization, you could rely on this stats to actually indicate that maybe people could do more screen shares and stuff to help collaborate with their teammates. You may think people might be able to do more video calls with their teammates, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite a handy tool for getting an idea of how the tool is being used in the organization. It also gives you a breakdown on whether you're doing internal calls or external calls. You can see we do a lot of external calls, and of course you've got filters on the left so you can filter things down. Total minutes, similar dashboard, but it gives you it broken down to minutes, not the number of calls, but the duration of calls in total minutes. So if you look at this data, it shows you over all the months. It gives you like a rolling 12 months here. Sorry, rolling 30 days here, not rolling 12 months. It's a different dashboard. The good thing with Power BI again is you can click on the different visuals, and it filters the dashboard to that. So if I was to click on Microsoft Teams, it'll adjust the dashboard just to minutes that were done using the Teams app. If I clicked on Android one, it'll show me the data for the Android app. So, if you were finding out that Android users were having problems, you could click down into Android and see how many calls have been done. It'll give you an idea of how widespread the problem could be, how many people could be affected, and then if there's like a patch for the Android app or a new update for the Android app, you could push that out to people's Android devices, and hopefully that'll give you an idea of the footprint that Android is having in your organization. Again, audio minutes. This is what I was talking about before. This is the 12-month graph that shows your audio minutes for the last 12 months. The data I've got doesn't have it in there, but there's a field called Second City in the Teams database. So when you're making calls, if that client actually has that field populated in their profile, then it can actually plot on the map. You're talking to someone in Africa or Asia or wherever. It's quite cool. But the people we've been talking to in the past month are all in Australia and don't seem to have that populated. So that's why you're not seeing any dots on my map. But it's pretty cool. But you can actually, if that's filled in, you can filter it by region, and there's lots of cool things you can do. And again, these are just example. You can actually take data that's on several different dashboards and bring it together into one, and have just one high-level dashboard. But these are just samples of how you can use the data. Again, this regional details on audio, this gives you an idea of the quality of the call. So if you see the graph down the bottom, down here with the combination column and line chart, you can see in red you have the poor call rate. So you got a few points here where you had a few not quite so good calls earlier in the month, possibly because that's when teams were ramping up their servers because of the big increase in services. So maybe they were adjusting their services. And you can see sort of later in the month it's not quite so bad. And the failure percentage, so we only have really a couple of failures last week, but you know, if you were seeing this and you were having a lot of people having problems with calls, you could rely on this sort of data and drill down to the data behind it to get an indication and even do your own graphs and stuff of where problems might be coming from. The next slide I'm going to look at was the user list, and this is a really good one. I like this one myself. So in this one, you can actually look at the number of calls and stuff being made by individual users, and it gives you the call start time, end time, what type of call it was, whether it was audio. You can see down here, there's a lot of details. So you have the failure type, the media type, what was the client app version down here as well. It even shows you what volume the person was using. So you know, if you have a help desk call come in from Mike at Inasolve.com, and he says that his call quality has been poor, he keeps having failing calls, then you can actually look at it. You'll see what app version he's using. You can then potentially see if it's a new version out and push it out to him. The other thing that this highlights as well is when you end a call in Power BI, when you end a call in Microsoft Teams, it actually has an exit survey there where it says to you, what was his call quality like? And you know, in the past, I've just said, don't worry about it, like I don't fill it in. But if you're using these types of dashboards in your organization, it actually is really worthwhile to ask your users to just take the time to click whether it was a good call or a bad call, because it really will help you then when using this sort of data to try and get an indication of where there may be problems in your network. You know, because you may be able to see a correlation between certain users and what logon server they're using or something like that, or you know. So I think it's a very good idea for users to actually provide that feedback to Microsoft, particularly when you actually do have a call failure or a poor call. At least that way you'll have that data captured. But yeah, there's so much data available, and there's lots of different templates available as well. I'm just showing you a handful of them. I'm happy to talk to people about them and give you an indication of what's available. The next one is the conference detail dashboard. Again, similar to the last one, but it provides a lot more information on failures. So if I can show you down the bottom here, it shows the same sort of data as the last one, but a bit more. It has like transport protocol, jitter, packet loss, the round trip time, things like that. So, and again, it can show you where the participants were talking to as well. So if your people you're actually conferencing with have that data filled in their profile, then you'll see, you know, you're talking to someone in Europe when you had that bad call, and it might be there's a communication problem between countries or something. But the cool thing about this is it gives you the start and end time of the call, so you can know how long it went for, you know, whether it failed mid-call, all that sort of stuff. So it really helps you drill down into what's causing the problem. It even shows you what the transport protocol was. So what I was thinking about this sort of data was, if you're trying to talk to the executive managers about adoption of the service, you can see how it's going using the other dashboards around the summaries of minutes done and the number of calls made. But if you're then talking to the chief technical officer and you need to provide feedback on how users are finding the quality of the service, and you can use this data, then that gives you a lot of quality information to present potentially in a report to them. The other thing you can do with these dashboards is in the the help desk area of the organization, you can have a screen up and you can have several of the dashboards up on the screen. And I mean, you can use this call quality data, but you can also do a project where you pull data out of, for example, the Microsoft Graph API, and set up a staging database for the data from Graph, which has, you can get data on Active Directory and all sorts of data about people, but from Exchange and all the different Microsoft services they have. And you can tie it, pair it with this, and you can get an idea of, particularly people who are working remotely, when are people logging on, when they're logging off, how many calls they're making during the day, how many emails are they getting, how many emails are they sending. So if you're trying to get an indication of your Microsoft license utilization for remote workers, Microsoft really has all that data available to you. And we're actually working on a project for a client at the moment, which is going to be building something like this and tying it to a whole set of line of business systems and bringing the data together to look like utilization of the systems, logins remotely, and to give the directors and the managers that visibility of how staff are going with remote working, particularly during this pandemic. But going forward, it's important, to be able to support your staff with quality systems, but also to have the data there to know that staff are actually performing their role during the day. So, I mean, this was just a brief overview. We're just trying to give you an idea of what exists in this sort of data set. We're more than happy to talk to people about what there is available, and if there's any questions, feel free to talk now. I'm happy to take questions. But that was just a brief overview of the Call Collier Dashboard and Power BI in general. So on behalf of Inasolve and our team, I'd like to thank you for attending, and wish you all well during this COVID-19 pandemic, and hopefully with a bit of hard work and cooperation and collaboration between all of us, we get through this thing really well and are better for it on the other side. And so from our team to yours, thank you very much for attending.